Right now, you have a superpower that no other creature on this planet possesses. And it is a superpower that works against you. When you're caught or exposed or embarrassed, your body betrays you on purpose. It floods your face with visible red, announcing your private feelings to the entire room, whether you like it or not. You cannot control it. You cannot fake it. You cannot stop it. And here is the truly strange part, that betrayal, that helpless red flush that gives you away, may be one of the deepest reasons humans are able to trust each other at all. Think about how bizarre this actually is. Every other signal your body sends, you have at least some control over. You can force a smile you don't feel. You can hide your fear, swallow your anger, put on a brave face. Actors do it for a living. But the blush cannot be faked and it cannot be suppressed. Try to stop blushing sometime and you'll find that trying only makes it worse. It is one of the only human expressions that is almost completely outside your conscious control. Your body has, in effect, a channel it can broadcast on that. You cannot switch off. And it uses that channel to tell everyone around you the one thing you'd often most like to hide. Here is the thing nobody tells you about blushing. It looks like a flaw, a glitch. A cruel little malfunction that exposes you at your worst moments, but it may be exactly the opposite. It may be one of the most sophisticated pieces of social technology our species ever evolved, a signal so honest it helped build human trust, cooperation, and community itself. By the end of this video, I want you to see that hot, embarrassing flush, not as your body betraying you, but as your body doing one of the most profoundly human things it can possibly do. So let's start with the puzzle, because it genuinely stumped one of the greatest minds in the history of science. Charles Darwin was fascinated by blushing. He called it the most peculiar and the most human of all expressions. And it troubled him because at first glance, it seems to violate the entire logic of evolution. Evolution is supposed to build things that help a creature survive and pass on its genes. So how on earth do you explain a trait whose entire function seems to be to publicly expose your own weakness, your own guilt, your own embarrassment, at the exact moment you'd benefit most from hiding it? A signal that helps your rivals and hurts you. By the cold rules of survival, blushing looks like it should never have evolved at all. And yet here it is, universal across every human population on Earth, in every culture, on every continent. So something must be going on. This apparent flaw must somehow be a feature. And it really is universal, which is the first big clue. This isn't a quirk of one culture or one part of the world. People blush on every inhabited continent in every society that has ever been studied, regardless of their language, their customs, or their history. Even people who are born blind, who have never once seen another human being blush, still blush themselves. Read that again, because it is remarkable. You cannot have learned to blush by copying others if you've never seen it done, which means blushing isn't a habit we pick up from our culture. It is not learned behavior at all. It is built-in, standard equipment coming pre-installed in the human body from birth. And in biology, when you find a trait that is that universal, that consistent across every population, and that deeply wired, it is a giant flashing sign that says this is not an accident. This is not a side effect. This was shaped by evolution, on purpose, because it did something important. Something worth the terrible cost of turning bright red at your worst moments. The universality is the proof that there is a real function hiding here, waiting to be found. And to understand what, you first have to understand what blushing actually is, because it is very specific. You don't blush from physical exertion. That is just a flush. You blush from social emotions, embarrassment, feeling exposed, judged, caught out, being the sudden center of attention. Blushing is tied precisely and exclusively to how you appear in the eyes of others. It is a fundamentally social signal. It only exists because we are a fundamentally social species, one that cares desperately and constantly about what other people think of us. A creature that didn't care about its reputation would have no need to blush at all. The blush is proof, written on your face, of just how much you care. And notice how specific the trigger really is, because it is revealing. You don't blush when you're alone. Think about that. If you trip over your own feet in an empty room, nothing happens. But trip in front of a crowd and your face ignites. The blush needs an audience. It is exquisitely tuned to the presence and the gaze of other people. Even the thought of being watched, of being judged, can set it off. Some people blush just from being praised, from having a spotlight of positive attention suddenly swing onto them. What all of these moments share is a single thread. In each one, you have suddenly become aware of yourself as an object in someone else's mind. You're seeing yourself through their eyes. And that specific, almost dizzying experience of catching your own reflection in the judgment of others is the exact trigger for the blush. which tells you something profound before we've even explained the why. Blushing is bound up at the deepest level with our ability to imagine what is going on inside other people's heads. It is a signal from the most socially self-aware creature that has ever lived. So now we arrive at the central mystery. Why would evolution build an honest signal of your own embarrassment that you cannot control? And this is where it gets genuinely brilliant. Let me throw something at you that might sound wild, but is, I think, the key to the whole thing. The reason blushing works, the reason it is valuable, is precisely because you can't control it. Its uncontrollability is not the bug. It is the entire point. Here is why. Imagine a signal you could fake. A signal people could produce whenever it was convenient. That signal would be worthless because nobody could trust it. If you could blush on command, blushing would mean nothing. But because blushing is involuntary, because it genuinely cannot be faked, it becomes something incredibly rare and valuable in the world of communication, an honest signal, a signal that cannot lie. When you see someone blush, you are seeing a true, unfakeable readout of their inner emotional state. Their body has just told you something real about them, something they could not have chosen to tell you and could not prevent telling you. And that honesty is worth its weight in gold. Biologists actually have a whole framework for this, because the problem of honest signaling runs all through the natural world. The core issue is simple. Communication is only useful if it is trustworthy, but there is always a temptation to lie, to send a signal that benefits you regardless of whether it is true. So how does nature ever produce a signal that can be believed? The answer over and over is that the most trustworthy signals are the ones that are impossible or at least very costly to fake. A signal you can produce for free is a signal you can produce dishonestly, so it gets ignored. But a signal that is hard to fake, that is wired directly to a real internal state and can't be switched on at will, carries genuine information. That is exactly what blushing is. Evolution stumbled onto a way to make an emotional signal completely trustworthy by taking it out of our conscious control entirely. You cannot lie with a blush, and precisely because you cannot lie with it, everyone can believe it. The helplessness is the guarantee. Your inability to fake it is the very thing that gives it value. Think about what a blush actually communicates in the moment. Say you break a social rule. You say the wrong thing, you're caught in a small mistake, you accidentally offend someone, and you blush. What is that blush saying to everyone watching? It is saying, I know I broke the rule. I care that I broke it. I'm not indifferent. I'm not a threat. I feel the weight of this. The blush is an involuntary confession and an involuntary apology, rolled into one, delivered instantly and unfakeably. It tells the group that you recognize the social code, that you're embarrassed to have violated it, and therefore that you can be trusted to respect it in the future. And here is how powerful that is. Studies have actually looked at this, and the findings line up with the theory beautifully. When people witness someone commit a small social blunder, they tend to judge that person more favorably, more forgivingly, if the person visibly blushes than if they stay cool and unbothered. Read that again, because it is the whole argument in a single fact. The blush, the thing you're so ashamed of, actually makes other people like you more and trust you more after a mistake. It works. It does exactly the job evolution seems to have built it for. The red face says sorry more convincingly than words ever could, because words can be faked and the blush cannot. When you blush after a stumble, you are, without any effort or intention, repairing the social bond you just strained. Your body is doing the apologizing for you, and doing it better than you consciously could. That involuntary red flush is, in a very real sense, one of the most effective social repair tools a human being possesses. And that is enormously reassuring to everyone around you, because the person you really need to worry about, the genuinely dangerous person, is the one who breaks the rules and feels nothing. The one who lies without a flicker, who transgresses without a trace of embarrassment, that person is a threat to the group. But the person who blushes, the person who turns red with shame at their own mistake, that person is telling you, in a language that cannot be faked, that they are playing by the rules, that they care about their standing with you, that their conscience is online. Blushing is a hard-to-fake signal of trustworthiness. And in a species whose entire survival strategy is built on cooperation, on trust, on living and working together in groups, a reliable signal of who cares about the rules is worth almost everything. So step back and look at what blushing really is. It is not a malfunction. It is a trust technology. It is your body's way of proving to others that you have a conscience, that you're bound by the same social contract they are, that you can be relied upon. And crucially, it works because it is out of your control. Evolution, in a sense, made the signal honest by making it impossible to fake. The very thing that makes blushing so agonizing that you can't stop it is the exact thing that makes it valuable. It is a confession you can't suppress, which is exactly why everyone believes it. And this fits perfectly with everything we know about how humans actually survived. Because we are not fast or strong or armed with natural weapons. Our superpower, the thing that let a soft, slow primate conquer the planet, was cooperation. Living in groups, trusting each other, sharing food, sharing knowledge, watching each other's children, relying on the group to survive. But cooperation has an eternal weakness: cheaters, freeloaders, people who take the benefits of the group but don't play fair. Any cooperative species desperately needs ways to tell the trustworthy from the untrustworthy, and blushing is one of those ways, built right into the body. It is a signal that helps honest people flag their honesty involuntarily so that the group can know who to trust. In a world where your survival depended entirely on being accepted and relied upon by your group, the ability to unfakeably signal, "I am one of you. I respect our rules. I feel shame when I fail," was not a weakness. It was a survival tool of the highest order. And think about how life or death this really was for our ancestors. For most of human history, being cast out of your group was very nearly a death sentence. A lone human on the ancient landscape, cut off from the band, was desperately vulnerable, unlikely to survive long, and even less likely to raise children. So your standing in the group wasn't a matter of hurt feelings or social awkwardness. It was survival itself. Your reputation was your lifeline. And in that world, anything that helped you stay accepted, that reassured the group you were a reliable member worth keeping around, was enormously valuable. Suddenly, a signal that automatically says, "Please forgive me. I care. I'm still one of you," in the moments when you've slipped, isn't an embarrassing malfunction at all. It is a mechanism for holding on to the one thing you could not survive without: your place among your people. The blush is the body's way of protecting your membership in the group by constantly, honestly reassuring everyone that you play by the rules when your life depends on belonging. A tool that safeguards belonging is worth almost any cost, even the cost of a burning red face. That is why, of all the animals, only we blush. Because no other animal lives quite the way we do in these dense, complex, reputation-driven social worlds, where what others think of you can determine whether you thrive or are cast out. Blushing is the signature of a creature that lives and dies by its social bonds. It is the mark of the most social animal that has ever existed. Now we have to talk about the shadow side of this, because there absolutely is one, and many of you have felt it. Here is the uncomfortable part. The very same wiring that makes blushing such a beautiful trust signal is also the source of real human suffering. Because to blush, you have to care deeply about what others think of you. And that caring, that exquisite sensitivity to the judgment of others, can become a prison. For some people, the fear of blushing, the dread of that involuntary exposure, becomes its own source of intense anxiety. The social monitoring system that evolved to help us cooperate can dial up so high that it turns ordinary life into a minefield of potential embarrassment. The same instinct that says, "I care what you think," an instinct that binds us together, can curdle into, "I am terrified of what you think," which can isolate a person completely. And there is a cruel irony buried in it too. Because blushing feeds on attention, the more you fear it, the more likely it becomes. Dread the blush. And the dread itself, the spike of self-consciousness, can summon the very flush you were trying to avoid. It can become a loop, a person blushing about their blushing, embarrassed by their own embarrassment, trapped in a feedback spiral their own body keeps fueling. It is a perfect, painful example of an ancient tool overshooting its purpose. A signal designed to gently smooth over the occasional social slip can, turned up too high, become a relentless source of dread that colors someone's whole experience of being around other people. The very sensitivity that makes us considerate and trustworthy is the same sensitivity that, in excess, can make simply existing in front of others feel unbearable. And it goes deeper than blushing itself. The whole emotional machinery underneath it, shame, embarrassment, the constant background awareness of how we appear to others, is a double-edged sword. In healthy amounts, it is the glue of society, the thing that makes us considerate, accountable, and kind. In excess, it can become crippling, a relentless inner critic, a source of anxiety and pain. If that is something you struggle with, if the fear of judgment or embarrassment weighs heavily on you, please know it is not a character flaw and you're not alone. It is an ancient system, one that is essential to being human, sometimes just turned up too loud, and that is something a good therapist or counselor can genuinely help with. There is no shame in seeking that, no pun intended. I'll leave that there. So why are humans the only animal that blushes? And here is the honest answer, the one this channel always owes you. We can't watch the first blush. Emotions and their expressions don't fossilize. There is no bone, no artifact, no trace in the archaeological record of the first ancestor whose face flushed with shame. We can't say exactly when, in our long evolution, this remarkable signal first appeared. Anyone who gives you a precise date is guessing, but we can say why. And the why is beautiful. Blushing appeared because we became the social species. Because at some point, our survival came to depend so completely on cooperation, on trust, on our standing within the group, that it became genuinely advantageous to have a signal we could not fake, a signal that broadcast our embarrassment, our recognition of the rules, or fundamental trustworthiness, straight to the people around us. Blushing is what happens when a creature becomes so deeply, thoroughly social that its own body evolves to tell the truth about its feelings, whether it wants to or not. It is the physical mark of our hypersocial nature written in blood just beneath the skin, because that is the part I want to leave you with. The next time you feel that hot, helpless flush rising in your cheeks, that awful sense of your own body giving you away, I don't want you to feel quite so ashamed of it, because that blush is not a betrayal. It is one of the most honest and most human things you can possibly do. It is your body involuntarily telling the people around you the truth that you care, that you have a conscience, that you're one of them, bound by the same invisible rules, feeling the same weight of belonging. Every blush is a tiny, unfakeable act of honesty, a flash of pure, helpless humanity. No other animal can do it. It is one of the small, strange miracles of being us. You blush because you are exquisitely, unavoidably, wonderfully social. Because somewhere deep in your evolution, being trusted mattered so much that your body learned to prove your honesty for you. Whether you asked it to or not, it is not a flaw in the design. It is the design working perfectly, telling the truth on your behalf, in a language older than words. So here is my question for you. Now that you know your blush is an unfakeable signal of your own honesty, does it change how you feel about that moment? Your face goes red. I'm genuinely curious how that lands. Let me know in the comments. Until then, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.